Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Problem Solver Politics live stream this beautiful Thursday evening. It's actually been super cool cruising with you guys this week. We've hit a live stream every single night this evening. And guess who is back? None other than Cody the Oracle.
Hey, everybody.
Yeah.
My lights on.
And, oh, snap. Yeah, you're right. You'll notice a couple of upgrades here, guys. As always, we are constantly trying to continue to up our visual game for you guys. So we've actually got a new Sony A5100 right here that we're shooting from. We're slowly improving all of the cameras and the equipment so that you guys can have an even more enriched visual experience right here. It's probably one of my biggest frustrations is trying to constantly upgrade and stay on top of the technology and make sure that we give you the best experience possible. And also the fact that when you use wide angle lenses, your arm looks like a meat hook. like look at that, Cody. I can't just sit here comfortably normally because look how just bulge. I look like freaking Popeye. You know what I'm saying? So we definitely got to figure this out over the next couple of weeks. But anyway, it has been crazy. It has been absolutely nuts. Going to start out with some really funny comments here that we got going on in the chat.
Yeah, sorry. I'm giving out about the Wii U.
In the chat, I said the CHAZ or the CHAD.
Okay. But yeah, eventually I do want to get onto that and talk about that. 'Cause I think it's some interesting stuff going on. I mean, obviously it's been going on for 4 days now, 5 days now, when the protests go back over a week.
Yeah.
But just looking over about some of this, they're finally getting a lot of news coverage. Journalists getting in, I believe.
Yeah. And so, hey, let's just dive right in, dude. Let's talk about it. Because, actually, Cody, instead of just ranting about the hypocrisy of it all, because I'm sure everybody by now has realized the absolute hypocrisy of, saying you have to defund the police and then just policing the area you just took over, and all kinds of crazy intellectual.
I have a question for you, though. Why is that hypocritical?
You don't find it kind of hypocritical to be like an anti-tax person and then to be demanding taxes from the people you just
Why
conquered?
would it be hypocritical to say defund the police departments and then impose your own policing? Why is that hypocritical?
Okay, I guess you're trying to say that just because you want to defund something doesn't mean you want it to cease to exist.
I'm asking you this specific question of what makes them hypocrites specifically. I think it's interesting conversation. It's kind of one of the conversations I want to have tonight. What is specifically hypocritical about that? Because I honestly can see a way where it's not hypocritical at all. It actually kind of just makes sense to me.
Okay, well, you go first then.
Well, I mean, just maybe the point isn't we don't think policing as a concept shouldn't exist. It's we should be doing it. I should be the police. So defund that police, and then I become the police.
Okay, but isn't...
Like nowhere in there, maybe some people, but like nowhere in the logic of what you're describing, in the logic of if you were to literally, we're talking about what's going on in Seattle, where they've literally just, the police have maintained, still up for debate. The police in Seattle have said that they basically, it's a tactic they're using, a de-escalation tactic to just give them the area and say,
okay.
It's a little bit like, I believe there was a leader in England who tried to just give him it and de-escalate strategy and it didn't work at all.
Yeah.
But like I said, for what you're seeing in there, you'll even notice they're not saying there's going to be no forms of what would be considered policing. It's just they would be implementing their own policing. Like what we find acceptable, you can do. What we find non-acceptable will prevent you or make you stop doing.
But to me, then, the semantics would have been slightly different. Defund the police is, at least in my view, and in the view that I believe they're trying to express, a sweeping indictment of policing in general. If they were to say, for example, dismantle. Oh, okay, fine. But either way, I'm saying if they were to say, for example, defund the Minnesota urban police or, defund the LA County sheriffs, and they were giving a specific example, I wouldn't think it was indictment of policing as a science and a whole. And
okay, my only point was this.
Okay.
Perhaps you are confused because you're simply misunderstanding the intentions of these people. Because I agree. If you were to think, if you hate policing as a concept in general and want no policing done to anyone ever, and you're basically this like anarcho-libertarian, like I don't care if you are literally killing people in front of me, that you're right. Like I don't think that's what they're saying.
Shadow Wolf brings up a
I
very
think
good
what they're
point.
saying is the laws that the police we have right now, we don't like the laws they enforce and how they enforce them. We would prefer to replace. Like, there's never this defund the police and never replace them with anything equivalent to it ever again forever. They leave that part out. Normally just defund or abolish. It's not defund the police, abolish the police, and never have anything like it ever again. Like, I think you're adding that. I think some of them is defund what we call the police, abolish what we call the police, and implement something new, which a lot of them are saying. I believe, remember Minnesota, they're like, we're going to implement different kind of like social workers. We'll send, like, they don't say we're just going to stop addressing these issues.
So we're going to send a 63-year-old social
What
worker
if
who's
what they
about to
call
retire to a bank robbery.
What if what they call a social worker carries an AR-15? They're just called a social worker. I'm serious. Like,
because then once again we're fulfilling
you know
George
what, dude?
Orwell's prophecy, where the
oh God,
all words are changed.
Too bad my opinions fulfilled George Orwell's prophecy. I will now disbelieve everything I believe. I feel like a lot of people make this when I see online arguments, like, and people think about stuff and how can somebody hold these two things? It's like, dude, like I explained too, as like a religious person, it's like I don't think religious people go around hearing people obviously hate their religion and bash them and harass them on it and go, you know what? I'm just going to sit here and hear this guy out. Maybe he's got good points. Maybe this guy who's screaming at me is just going to convince me that, like, Jesus is fake. Like, no, because why would anyone do that? It doesn't make any sense. Like, people on some level believe what they do. Why would I sit there and let someone scream at me that my beliefs and you know, my community policing are stupid? I believe in them. Why would I let anyone come up and tell me to get rid of them? Why would I sit down from someone while they denigrate me and make fun of me? Like, people will just believe what they believe and keep on believing it, man.
So are these just a bunch of righteous but mistaken freedom fighters, Cody? Or are they psychotic leftists? Actually, I wouldn't even say leftists.
Seattle's unique, though. You have to remember, Seattle is a very unique city as well. I mean, like,
full of feckless.
Well, no, but like this idea, the idea of...
The mayor wouldn't pass a law saying that it's a crime to commit a felony with a mask on because he was so afraid of Antifa. They don't have leaders in Seattle. They have pansies who have been breastfed on these stupid leftist ideas that everything from self-image is more important than job skills, and you matter because you're the center of the universe that started in the early 70s. They're everything bad and every fulfillment of every caricature that anybody has ever had about the good things on the left.
Okay, but also, what if the government is just appeasing the community that largely feels this way? What if that's
well,
true?
Then that community's got a problem. And actually, I have thought about that. Also, I thought, what is it about Seattle and the culture of Seattle that's made it that they put up with this nonsense so much? Like, can you name any other major city in the world where, I don't know, Mayor Garcetti's out there kneeling in front of activists? Like, so who knows? Maybe it's not unique to Seattle.
God forbid our local politicians pander. Like, yeah, oh man, the politicians out there pandering again.
Well, they did used to lead once upon a time.
Okay, but now they don't. They haven't for quite some time.
I mean, we used to have presidents who were members of the armed forces at one time. And I have trouble envisioning
even then
John F. Kennedy, George Washington. I have trouble envisioning Ronald Reagan.
Hold on a second.
You know,
George Washington
isn't going to sit there and kneel in front of the British in solidarity with colonial injustice.
Well, okay. Well, there's a couple things. I don't think the King of Black Lives Matter is currently ruling us from England. One, but two. George Washington, man. Maybe George Washington was actually a really unique, interesting person. And that's how we talk about him 350 years later, because he isn't just some jamoke who's a councilman in some random city and who's never going to amount to more than that. You know what I mean? Like maybe that's why he was George Washington. Like, he's on the $1 bill. But anyway, we'll get into some. I want to highlight one thing I thought was really funny as well.
Okay, hit it.
Just the getting back a little bit more on topic about the CHAZ, which of course short for, I guess not of course, but it's short for the Capitol Hill autonomous zone. I keep wanting to, I want to say exclusion zone in the back of my head, not the exclusion zone, the autonomous zone. But check this out. So the Washington Post ran an article today. It seems like in the last 24 to 48 hours or so, man, I tried to skip this ad so you guys wouldn't have to see the ad for overpriced ripoff masks, and it refreshed and updated as soon as I put it over. But it seems the last, a day or so, more journalists have gotten into the area, talked to some people, we've seen more articles. For a couple of days, there wasn't much articles. Check this out. That's interesting. Let me find, I want to find the exact line. Here we go. It says the city is providing trash pickup and portable restroom service dailies to the autonomous zone. Even as a handful of armed Seattle Police Department officers began making their way into the East Precinct on Thursday, the situation remained peaceful. That's the sentence. I remember the first thing I did today, checking up on this, was I read this article, and I thought, okay, so they're letting some police back in to check things out. However, I then decided to go to Twitter, where people just post videos of what they're doing. And I'm not just picking random people. And one of the first videos that I saw, I thought was kind of hilarious. This is from a Heidi Grover, who, again, just, a little bit of background. She is the transportation reporter at the Seattle Times. Something tells me probably not some crazy right-winger. And this was her experience. She said, let me make sure the music isn't still playing, is it? It is. I gotta pause the music. But she said, this is my first day in the CHAZ. Arrived just as the group was trying to get rid of a couple of police and shouting to check all the barricades. It was largely peaceful. And then we have another individual. I'll get the audio in a second so you guys can hear it. Just moment of tension at the CHAZ as a group of Seattle police on bikes enter the East Precinct.
That's funny.
And here's the thing. I don't think there's anything crazy about the notion that there was some tension between the police coming back to the precinct after they essentially abandoned it. I would imagine there to be some. It's just, I don't know. I mean, I guess peaceful, you could say no one was like throwing, but it's just funny. It's like, why wouldn't a journalist who was there just report with the people that are there reporting? Like they weren't fighting them with sticks, but it was just like, they weren't happy to see the police. They weren't like, hey, what's up, guys? Come on in. There's another video I'll show you with one of the activists came out to basically yell at the police, say, you guys, we're not going to let you guys in. You can't have it back. I believe some did get in. I think this happened just a few hours ago. Some stuff's still coming in, but it's just funny. Like they'll just kind of, it was peaceful. Don't worry about it. And that's like, well, it wasn't. But why would anyone expect it to be? That's the other funny thing. It was like I was almost surprised when I read it. Like I was like, I kind of get it, but wow, weird. But then, yeah, of course it wouldn't be. That was the whole point. Is they don't want police in there. Why would they just be like, we don't want police, no police? But see, that is what I would call hypocritical.
Okay.
If they legitimately did just stand to the side and let the cops walk into the precinct and check stuff out and leave, but that's kind of hypocritical. Like you're saying, you specific people we want gone, and you're back and we're letting them in. But yeah, it was a little bit, there was some moment of tension. According to the police, I want to get to that because they do bring it up down here. According to them, they were able to get into the precinct and check some things out. This is from, who's the name? Durkin. Here's the quote. SPD did an assessment today, and there is going to be an ongoing assessment about when it's going to be safe to move in. We don't want to introduce additional flashpoints to the code, but yes, they did get in there and check some stuff out. Was my point. They weren't beaten back and held off at the checkpoints. The police weren't let in, but there was some tension. I just thought it was funny. I just happened to pull this article up and read that sentence. I'm like, okay, it was peaceful. That was weird. And I just go to Twitter and pull video clips up. I'm like, nope, it wasn't. But man, thankfully, in order to go on Twitter and just watch the actual videos of this stuff happening, and again, I'll play these videos for you guys. But this, by the way, you know how much this cost me? It cost me $0 to go on Twitter and just actually watch these things happen and, for myself. Here's the video I want to show you guys. It's called, check this out. So.
Everyone, you should be hitting up your friends to get the fuck over here so they can see what the fuck is going on. Are you gonna let two cops take a building and tell you that they're not gonna give you a timeline?
Apologies for the language.
Y'all better be hitting up every single
there
one
was
of your fucking
tensions.
friends
People
right
were
now
heated.
so they can witness this.
Because, yeah, there is some conflict going on between the police and the people of the area. I don't know why that was just written off in a sentence. I'm sorry for repeating it, but I just thought that was kind of funny.
This is gold. This is really gold. It reminds me of the French Revolution.
Oh, 1 second. Someone asked, what is a CHAZ? So, I guess I do this sometimes. But this has been in the news for a couple of days, but I want to do a recap. Excuse me. So, there's an area in Seattle known as Capitol Hill. I guess the Capitol Hill Police Precinct for Seattle PD encompasses like 6 to 7 blocks, or at least that's the area these people have taken over. So the police, in what they, I believe, originally called a de-escalation tactic after I think it was 6 or 7 nights of protest at the police precinct, they basically just pulled all their officers out of the precinct. So there was no police in this 6 to 7 block
they just
radius.
ceded ground. Starting
on, I believe, Monday night. There was no police. It was just the people in the community. I think some of the numbers, I believe, like 400 to 500 residences, something like that. Who knows how many residents in there, but that's how many, places people could live in was there. There's some businesses. I'm going to go through some. I mean, of course, I have a Fox News article where they're talking about the extortion tactics. But I have to imagine there's no police. There's probably some crime going on somewhere. So we're going to go over some of that stuff as well. But yes, so in this Capitol Hill area, there's been a few nights now of essentially no Seattle police. Again, I guess the idea and the concept of policing has very much existed in this area. There's reports of someone who's being called now the warlord of the CHAZ, or the Seattle warlord. Let me talk about him a little bit. I think he's just the de facto muscle in the area. Like, he just has the most people under him with guns to enforce things. So when he tells people to do things, they listen to him more than others, it seems like. But there's probably other people like him in there as well that have some sway of influence or at least around with people. Now, I've heard, I'm not there, and I have read that there's no one else like him in the area. So we'll go talk about him a little bit as well. But as you would imagine, 3 days, no police, no Seattle police, no city of or state of Washington and federal or state laws. Actually, technically, federal lawmen could probably still go in there and arrest people without the city being able to step in and do anything because it's federal stuff. But that's what's going on. And actually, I'll show you guys. Here's some pictures to give you guys a better idea of what is going on. So here is, I believe, here's the actual precinct. So what the police did, a little bit different than what we saw happen in Minneapolis, if you remember from a few weeks ago, when the police basically retreated from a precinct under siege. This was a little bit more deliberate. They took some time, boarded everything up, took out the stuff they wanted to take out, and essentially just left the area and said that we're not going to be patrolling here anymore. There's been a sign put up, I believe it was June 10th. Yeah, a couple of days ago, a sign was put up saying, "Welcome to the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone." Somebody spray painted somewhere, but it's the funny thing about news and media and stuff, right? Oh my God, Newsweek. See, you love Newsweek. I
just won't believe it until it's in Newsweek.
Okay, you got to give me a second for it to load so I can show you guys what pictures.
While you're talking about that, I do have to address some really funny comments. Shadow Wolf has suggested that the CHAZ hire all of the Karens and that just get a bunch of Karen volunteer police. Dude, they'll be pulling everybody over, asking to talk with their parents and their supervisors. You know what I'm saying? That'd be pretty awesome. You are now entering Free Gap Hill. I saw the sign that says you are now leaving the United States of America, which is really funny.
That's what I want to get to. That's what people like to do in the media and stuff.
Okay.
Whoever that one person was who wrote that, I mean, do you think they had a meeting where they all voted and decided that is the message No, of course they implicitly endorse it, right? But like one person goes out of their way to write something and the picture becomes the picture that gets passed around and people look at, and suddenly it's... These people are separatists. They're trying to secede from America. I think a lot of them are playing around. Someone just wrote that as a joke, and now everyone is like, clearly. See, I've never been there. I personally have only seen like 9 pictures. Okay. The same 9 like everyone's seen. Yeah. But some guy wrote that somewhere, so something fishy's going on. I don't know. I think sometimes, I think a lot of the times that happens, and it really is like some person just wrote something and there was no meeting. Everyone's like, we agree with this message 1,000%. It's just nobody went to remove it. And maybe sometimes, by the way, it was removed shortly after the picture was taken, but it doesn't matter. Everyone's seen the picture already. But this is my favorite though. The picture of the hand sanitizer. Clearly they got a functioning government because they taped some hand sanitizer to a piece of wood here. Just people hanging out. Honestly, I would say this reminds me a little bit more of kind of. I wasn't alive for it. This sounds closer to the descriptions of the hippies in San Francisco.
Okay.
In the 60s.
Legit.
Where there was areas that were just kind of like the hippie areas. And the police, probably went in there and harassed them sometimes. We'll see how long this lasts, right? But for the most part, we're like, yeah, people are just sitting over there doing drugs and being hippies. And for the most part, at least they're there and not somewhere else. I wonder how much of it was that. Ever seen the show The Wire? Anyone watching this, by the way, or reading about this, thought about this in their head? In one of the seasons of The Wire, that's one of the plots. They say, what if we just take like a few blocks that are like abandoned and just say you can sell and do drugs there?
Okay.
Just don't commit crimes elsewhere. Police will literally sit at the exits and you could just go there and do as much drugs and sell as much drugs as you want. I honestly forgot what they called it in the show, but it feels almost a little bit like that, where the police is like, look, man, it doesn't look like they're intent on dragging people out of their homes and killing them right now. It looks like they're mostly intent on sitting around. I believe I heard stories they have like movie nights and stuff. Like, it looks like they're not like trying to, wage their holy war against America. It feels like for the time being, the police have just kind of said, why don't we just leave them alone? And that's kind of what I'm reading into this for the most part. It's kind of like, hey, look, we got all these people moved over here.
Yeah.
Why don't we just keep that up because if stories, again, we'll go through the some other stories. Fox News, of course, is trying to scare everyone into thinking it's chaos. I think it's, I haven't been there. Maybe I'm wrong. And it probably is a little bit. I don't think, I do believe, like, if you're not super down with the CHAZ and what they're about, like, yeah, don't go there. It probably won't be very kind to you. It definitely isn't.
Yeah.
I don't think
you wouldn't go in there with a Trump shirt on.
I don't think they're in the mood to have a bunch of people show up and argue with them and tell them they're wrong. I do believe that does not seem to be from the videos I've seen, the temperament of the area. Definitely seems like if you believe with what we believe in, you're welcome. But if you don't, but think about that.
Legit. I could see that. Legit.
But yeah, I have to imagine if things do start escalating, though, and we do start hearing about like actual like a lot of violence, like murder, and start hearing about stuff like that, the police probably will move back in. And I want to note that it isn't like what we saw in Minneapolis. We actually saw the police retreat essentially under some form of light attack during a siege of the precinct. Now, I believe I've heard that it probably happened that way because they were ordered to wait until they got a judge to sign a warrant to get information for the Chauvin case. I'm not saying it's 1,000% true, but I've heard that. But it looks like in this instance, instead, it was a little bit more like the police were like, look, we could just show up and fight these protesters because they're going to show up and protest the precinct again tonight. And we can do it for the ninth night in a row. Or we could just leave and see what happens. And that's what the police seem to be saying. They seem to be in the we're going to see what happens, where they had people come in today, as I showed you guys, to check things out and kind of take a look at, okay, what's going on? I mean, definitely, like they got some good intel when they showed up and had people trying to turn them away at the Bay Area, but they still got in. And then they had people at the precinct yelling at them, but I think they still got in and were able to poke
Cody,
around
like, how do you get on that? That's my question, though, is how do you, quote, go undercover or how do you mingle with these guys? Is there a password? Do you just walk up and like, Orange Man bad? Or do you just walk up and just be like, eat the rich? You know what I'm saying?
Tell you what,
like,
they probably beat the hell out of you. You walk up pulling that stuff, yeah.
So how do I fit in, Cody?
If you don't belong, they could probably tell. Is what I'd say. Because that's how it normally works in most places.
So in order to belong, should I just not shower for 3 days?
So if you hold these people in contempt and laugh at them and literally can't hold the smirk off your face, they'll probably be able to tell you're not one of them. If there's a constant air of you're beneath me and I'm laughing at you, they definitely will probably understand that you're not one of them. Yeah.
Okay, we got a super chat here. The Beat Trustee. All right, rock on. I wonder what that's in reference to. That's pretty cool. Says, look up Freetown Christiania. Freetown Christiania. You ever heard of it?
I just looked it up. Freetown's, it's the capital and the largest city of Sierra Leone. Major port city in the Atlantic. The one in the same.
Oh, no, actually, wait, no, I have heard of this before. Yeah, it's an ANCAP commune, right? Or how does it self-identify? It self-identifies as an intentional community or commune, about 850 to 1,000 residents, okay, in Christianshavn in the Danish capital of Copenhagen. Okay, maybe this isn't it.
There's multiple Freetowns.
Interesting. Tell us more about this, the Beat Trustee. According to Wikipedia, it says Christiania has been a source of controversy since its creation in a squatted military area in 1971. Its cannabis trade was tolerated by authorities until 2004. Since then, relations between Christiania and Danish authorities have been strained.
Okay. Copenhagen, that's what I thought.
Yeah, okay.
I kind of thought when I was pulling it up, I mean, I'm like, the major port city in Sierra Leone? That's kind of weird. Okay, yeah. I'll pull up the Copenhagen one.
So it's an anarchist commune. So they specifically don't have a government?
Okay, that sounds about right.
Is that the way it would be, though? Because if you're anarchist, you believe there shouldn't be a government. It should just be anarchy and every man for himself.
Hey, let's go through. This is the culture trip page. We're going to just walk through it. So getting there. Freetown. Oh, my God. Christiania. Christiania was not just the name of some random person you were addressing, which wouldn't make any sense. I don't know why I thought that. It's specifically what the reference.
Yeah, it's called Freetown Christiania.
I apologize.
Or Christiania.
Sometimes you gotta remember. But anyway.
And it's got a coat of arms, dog. I think that's cool.
It's located in the Christian Shaven area, and you can get there by metro, bus, or bike. Cars are not allowed within the district. Wow, okay.
Whoa.
So don't bother driving. Get off at Christian Shaven Street. Is it Danish or whatever? I'm not going to be able to pronounce this right. And head southeast towards... I really hope no one here is actually from Europe. Groningesgade. In approximately 15 minutes, you'll be entering the Bohemian district. If you don't want to walk all the way there, take the bus. Okay. What is Freetown Christiania? It's a former military base that's sat abandoned for many years before becoming the neighborhood we know today. In 1971, a group of hippies broke down the barricades and began squatting there. It's very noble beginnings. Nowadays, approximately 900 people live in the area, comprising a community that has its own rules and regulations completely independent of the Danish government. During its relatively short history, Freetown Christiania has faced a certain amount of turmoil. This is mainly due to the cannabis trade taking place in its famous green light district. At one time, police officers regularly invaded the neighborhood, occasionally arresting dealers. In August of 2016, a shooting in Christiania injured 3 people, including 1 police officer.
Hey, well, look at this. That's interesting. Go down.
Fascinating. The green light district. It's a very fascinating idea, though.
Well, look at this. If you look on their Wikipedia page, it has a couple pictures posted where they have Christiania's Gridlov's common law. All right. Rule number 1, no weapons. And it looks like they're specifically referencing guns because there's a little no sign with a gun in the middle.
That's always really tough, though.
No hard drugs. Interesting. So they say no hard drugs, and it shows a fist punching a needle. Then it says no violence, no private cars. I'm sure there's probably some kind of, I guess, municipal car because you'd have to bring something in on a vehicle, like if you're going to build something.
Well, also, probably maybe like a bit public transport. Sounds about what.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Then it says no bikers colors, specifically no gang jackets on bikers colors. That's an interesting law. Then it says no bulletproof clothing, no sale of fireworks. Interesting. No use of thunder rods, which I think it looks like an M80.
Looks like dynamite.
Or dynamite. Yeah. And then it says
dynamite. Yeah.
Then it says no stolen goods. Yeah. So here's a question. Have you seen some of these buildings in Christiania? It's called Architecture Without Architects, apparently in Danish. And this is really interesting. Look at this glass house that's on the Wikipedia page, Cody.
So you're not talking about this?
No, definitely not talking about this, nor that. Keep going. Oh, it's the other direction. The glass house they call Architecture Without Architects. This is kind of cool. I mean, it looks like it has a disease in there, but I'd sleep in there. Like I'd Airbnb
that.
Looks
like just one of the issues with a lot of kind of like what's the right word for it? It's like there needs to be a certain like there's like a certain level of, I'm trying to think of the right way to phrase this. How do I phrase this correctly? There's like a certain level of like base, not oppression, but
hygiene,
oppressiveness a society's life needs to be in order for there be people to bother waking up every day to just like make sure something doesn't go to make sure everything doesn't go to hell, right? You need to have some kind of system in place for those people who are like, whatever, man. I'm just going to paint this building. I'm going to wash these windows. I'm going to refurb it. I'm going to touch up these wooden whatevers. Because, in societies that have, like, just, like, there's no, like I said, not like the government literally oppressing you, but, like, this general, like, oppressiveness to life. If it doesn't exist, people won't do that stuff. Like, why?
Wow.
Yeah, you know what I'm going to do today? Today I'm going to get up on that ladder you see falling over on the ground there. I'm going to climb my ass up and clean this thing. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do today.
Wow.
I think it's interesting. I just think it's fascinating. When you notice, really, which is funny. I don't know why. But
this is really cool. This is really cool.
Oh, and my melanated scope $5 super chat says, look up Alderman Anthony Napolitano. I butcher it always. And the city council resolution to defund the police. The more you research him, the bigger clown he is. Hi, guys. What's up, man? Okay, I'll check into that.
My melanated scope.
Alderman?
What's a melanated scope, Cody?
I don't know.
Did the battery die?
Yeah.
Okay. So we're back on the old camera. All right. You can see the cord of the new one right there.
Sorry, I'm trying to copy and paste this. Give me 1 second. I want to pull it up and I want to check this out.
It's all good. I was just cleaning up my workspace.
Alderman resolution.
So Sly Cactus brings up a point that says, the glass house has no AC. That's no good for me. Christian Solid says no peeping. That's true. Does that guy just walk around naked when he gets out of the shower? Probably doesn't shower. Let's be honest. Ethan Jory says...
Hold on. Was that, remember when we were looking at the laws? Was that one of them? I remember seeing it.
Did you have to bathe or no bathing? No,
I don't remember. I don't remember. No, did it say you couldn't be nude in public? Was that one of the rules up there? I don't remember seeing that one.
That's true.
Like it's just if it's just not against
I guess
the rules,
you can just be nude. Yeah. Nathan Butcher says when you're not doing what you need to do, that's a lack of discipline. That's true. And Marion H says it was a candid moment. What was a candid moment, Marion? I'm not sure. What's it say about Anthony Napolitano and his city council resolution to defund the police? What's it say, Cody? Anything interesting?
Okay, hold on. So I just pulled this up right away. This is from Block Club Chicago. I'm literally reading through this with you guys.
Okay, cool. Let's read.
That is a stunt. It's a quote from Northside Alderman who blasts city council members for proposing to move cops to other wards. What? I'm just beyond disgusted by his behavior. I can't wait to call this out next week in city council to his face, one alderman said. So a Northwest Side alderman.
Oh, is this in Chicago?
Members, yes.
Oh, this debacle was
Chicago
huge
Police
today.
Department to agree to move at least half of the officers in their wards to other parts of the city. At least 9 aldermen say they support examining the police budget and relocating some of that funding into social services, mental health programs, and community interventions that'll prevent violence and reduce the need for policing. In response, Alderman Anthony Napolitano said he will introduce a city council resolution calling for a pilot program that would ask pro-defunding aldermen to agree to remove at least half the police personnel and other resources within their wards so they can be evenly redistributed to aldermen who want more cops in their areas. Oh, Napolitano, from police officer and firefighter, announced the resolution in a Wednesday Facebook post.
So, yeah, for those of you guys that aren't familiar with Chicago, it's one of those municipalities that has kind of an interesting semantic history. Just like in Louisiana, they don't have counties, they have parishes. So if you have a county contract, you have a parish contract. Sometimes it confuses people as they're driving through Louisiana. Like, what's a parish? In Chicago, it's one of the few large urban areas that has aldermen still, which is an old, I wouldn't say archaic, but an old school term for like a neighborhood council person. Okay. And in New York, it's very similar to the borough councils. And each neighborhood actually has kind of like an elected neighborhood borough president. I don't know what it's called, but it's like the neighborhood council. I think they're literally actually called neighborhood councils. And in Chicago, the guy that is elected the head of each neighborhood, okay, is called the alderman. And there was a big debacle today where a bunch of leaked audio with the mayor and his alderman was leaked out. And the mayor just started.
That's from a couple days ago. Yeah, this is a separate controversy.
I know this is a separate one, but it's like these aldermen are not agreeing with what's coming down from on top, and they're not agreeing with each other. Now there's all this great leaked audio of them just absolutely cussing each other out. It's pretty funny. Continue, Cody. I'm sorry.
How do you think politicians talk to each other, man? Well, I mean that was really
actually. I'm just glad they are talking to each other now. Finally.
That's it. They always. That's not what there's more, but that's the majority of it, though. So that's the facts here. So, because I think after that they kind of just get on to. Here we go. We'll go through some more. Defunding the police department's been a core demand of community activists for years. The issue has received renewed attention. Here we go. The city budgeted nearly $1.8 billion for the Chicago Police Department in 2020. That isn't they definitely are not getting what they pay for. I can tell you that much. According to Chicago's budget overview, which compromises about 40% of the city's operating budget. Isn't that crazy?
Well, not really. I was looking over the budgets of a lot of other cities, and it's very common that a mid to large size city, that between 35 and 45% of their budget, over 1/3, healthily over 1/3, goes straight to police.
What I'm saying is that, like, Chicago is like, is it still the murder capital of the country? Like, they have crime problems. So it's just interesting to me. It's like, wow, they spend almost $2 billion a year now annually, still to be like one of the like worst areas to live crime wise. And like, yeah, obviously that money is not going to use properly. Like, there's no way it is.
Well, like
it is the second largest police department in the U.S. though, with more than 1,300 officers, which is also okay. No, LAPD doesn't cover the county, but like, how many people live in LA compared to? Maybe that's kind of close because I know LA County is 10 million.
Well, and also Chicago's a much more succinct city than Los Angeles. Los Angeles just has this urban sprawl where the city never ends. You can drive 2 hours in any direction and you never feel like you've gotten out of the city. So, and this is where actually I agree a lot with progressives. I know you're always saying I'm trying to own the libs and stuff, but I think there needs to be massive reform on how we approach certain things. Just like it has been proven that throwing more money at education or homelessness doesn't work, so let's not throw more money at it, okay? We've shown that money isn't the solution. People volunteering their time, maybe better trained civic servants and more effective personnel is what we need. We don't necessarily just need to throw more money at the problem, okay? With policing, it's definitely been proven, I think, by now that there is a law of diminishing returns. Okay, there's a point in which policing is effective, and when you ask police to do too much, they become ineffective. And we also need to put our big boy pants on, and these legislatures really need to start looking at the problems they've caused. Eric Garner, do you remember the original? The OG of I Can't Breathe, the first strategy.
Yes.
Yeah. He was in Staten Island and he was not pulled over, but he was approached by cops for having broken the law of selling single cigarettes.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
The one that law exists too?
Yeah, probably because the tobacco companies lobbied to have it so you can't sell singles.
But as
right?
far as I remember, the push was that's how kids get into smoking cigarettes because kids can only afford single cigarettes. It's like I think kids get into smoking cigarettes and people who are older than them give them cigarettes. That's just my take on it. Because there's a you want to know what else too? It works. They like to do it just because it's my former industry. They love it because this. You know how many people used to come into my store because they're people who are like they're not really smokers. They smoke a little bit, and like sometimes I just want one cigarette. You can't just buy one cigarette. You have to buy 20.
Yeah, so
either throw them in the garbage if you only want one.
Yeah.
Or maybe, and then guess what? They've got you buying a pack a day for the next 50. They get like it's ridiculous.
Either way, either way, regardless of the root cause of it. Okay, I don't care if it was a bunch of stupid Christian Karens in the 1980s.
I thought it was a funny aside.
Yeah, I don't care if it was a bunch of Christian Karens in the 1980s or whether it was a bunch of psycho leftists. It was an interaction with police that was wholly unnecessary. You had a guy selling a good that was legally purchased and was being sold in a consensual manner. Okay, that's a police interaction that shouldn't happen. Philando Castile, okay, that's my fellow CCW boy here. All right, why was he getting pulled over for a traffic violation? Like the science has already been shown that traffic enforcement is at best negligible in its efficacy. It's equivalent to the war on drugs.
Well, hold on.
Okay,
1 second though.
Yeah.
I used to say get cops off. You don't need nanny cops on the roads. However, I was just thinking, like, what happens if someone is just like hauling ass, swapping paint, like running people off the road and stuff?
Happens in Germany all the time. And they still have better driving records than us.
You know what? So let's just import the problem of maniacs running you off the road from Germany to America.
But it still happens.
I'm just saying, I don't think it's like a utopia.
Bro, with all of our laws, I want to get to a minute. Yeah, what just got broken like 7 times last week during coronavirus? The cannonball run.
Well, yeah, because there's no cars on the road.
Okay, yeah, but I'm just saying laws aren't inherently like there's areas in our life as a society where it's been proven that policing is not the answer. Okay, one of them is traffic. It's been proven that throwing more money at education isn't what's giving you more results. Hours spent by teachers. There's a small correlation to classroom size.
I'm saying specifically,
so on and
so
so
forth.
forth.
Traffic cops have a place. That's my only point. I think specifically they have a place.
Okay, fine. We can argue that another day. But either way, at the end of the day, all I'm saying is that I agree with a lot of these progressives that maybe we need a new approach to policing. There needs to be a reform. I think that new approach and that new reform needs to be us getting a little bit libertarian here and getting rid of some of these stupid laws, because what killed Eric Gardner, I lay a lot of Gardner's death at the feet of a stupid city council that's making it illegal. Who made Eric Gardner, a guy who's hustling, all of a sudden a criminal. That's stupid. Okay? And look at what happened to George Floyd. Okay? He's getting called out for a small town pennies of a $20 bill.
Yeah, but hold on. One thing I want to...
I mean, they'll let you steal $500 from the store.
Do you know what...
You know?
Do you know what, from what I've seen, not Minneapolis, in some of the cities, seems to alter the way police officers approach suspects more than anything. After watching these body cam videos and stuff, it's generally the people no one ever talks about. It's how the 911 caller describes it. If I remember right, the 911 caller specifically speaking about George Floyd, he's like, hey, like this guy tried to pass a fake 20 and he got a pack of cigarettes. So I had a couple guys in my store go out and try to get the cigarettes back because he's still sitting in his car, but like he's drunk or something, like he's not right. He's kind of crazy. He said he was going to fight him. So like it kind of, that's how, then people show up and they're like, oh, we got to fight some drunk maniac. It's just funny. It just there was a viral video that went around in Los Angeles, an LAPD officer fighting a homeless guy or beating a homeless guy because I was handcuffed, couldn't fight back, right? However, a guy called, scared. They had the audio of the 911 call, scared to bejesus, saying, I own that property. I've tried to kick this homeless guy off multiple times. Every time I go there, he tries to fight me. I don't feel safe. I don't even want to be there when you get there. Just call me when he's gone. I'm afraid he'll hurt me. It just that's their information. This person was whatever. It's just funny. A lot of times the part gets left out. Also, recently that LAPD officer was charged for assault, which is whatever. One thing I thought was interesting, again, getting to principle and like anything matters to anyone. If you watch the actual video, the actual cameras from the cops, the homeless guy who was continually threatening to come back and kill the police officer also dropped homophobic slurs literally the entire engagement. No one mentioned that. Just wondering, what if that cop was gay and this guy kept dropping the F word at him and it just incensed him because of that?
That's true.
I'm just saying that would have been an interesting wrinkle. It's the reason why there's judges and juries, because most cases are actually really weird and have angles that we don't get explained to us. That's just my stance. It's one of the reasons why I generally don't come out too hard saying someone's guilty or innocent of anything, because I don't know, man. Most people are lying about what they did and what they didn't do. Everyone gives you the best interpretation. The police will be like, well, we just showed up and were very calm and peaceful and followed the book, right? Of course they're going to say that. And people will say, I saw the police and immediately did what they had. Of course people are going to say that, but we find out later it's not true. But on that thing, I wanted to point out one thing as well. First, I want to get this super chat because this to the point of this. Once again, my Melanated Scope, $5 super chat. Thank you. He said, in a good year, Chicago tops at 40% of homicides being solved.
That's bad.
And $113 million in 2018 for misconduct settlements, and then $153 million have been earmarked for 2020 to be used.
Jeez.
And so that is 300 from 2018 to 2020. If it looks like they estimate about $130 million a year in settlements, that's like $600 million in 3 years. I wonder what isn't working. They spend like a bunch of money on their. It's the problem with government though, man. Whenever the government pays for anything, even it be it police, you're gonna pay top dollar for crap. Always. The government finds a way to spend 50 times more than they should spend on something and get the absolute worst out of it.
I was about to say something has to be done with any kind of department that is having to earmark that much money for malpractice lawsuits. Because now, by the way, it's not necessarily always the fault of the police department either. There's entire practices of law that look at that and say, okay, they just earmarked 120 million of that. We want to go out and get 40 million of that. So we're going to put a bunch of commercials out that say, have you ever spoken with a cop? If you had an interaction with a cop that you don't think was savory, call us at 1-800 screw the cops, and then they just go through every interaction, try and find every technicality. And as much as I'm a huge civil rights guy, that kind of predatory law is just garbage in my mind. Absolute garbage in the worst aspect of our society. Sue Sovanavong. Am I saying that right? Sue Sovanavong. Okay, awesome. Hello from Lisbon, Portugal. Whoa, what up, Lisbon?
Very cool.
I have a little aside on Lisbon. I know about Lisbon, Portugal, because that is where was the final city in which I finally caught Carmen Sandiego in Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego. So I remember Lisbon, Portugal, because that's always where you had to chase down Carmen Sandiego in the video game Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego. I think me getting an Apple IIc Plus is probably single-handedly worth it just to get where in the world is Carbon San Diego. But anyway, hello from Lisbon, says Sue. You guys always bring the hot news. Ooh, hot news, Cody. I didn't know what CHAZ is until now. Yeah, well, apparently you're missing out, Sue.
Well,
You know?
I forgot. I want to go back and talk more about this. I thought it'd be fun to just kind of, because it does seem like tonight's the night a lot of people are getting in. I normally have not seen this many videos coming out. This is a video clip that was just posted 20, 30 minutes ago. From Julio Rosas. I've seen this guy covering stuff. He is Town Hall, DC Examiner. Either way, I see him out at these stuff before. Interesting. I want to check this out. So it says tensions are still high as speakers are arguing on what to do next in the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone. I want to watch the video. Tensions are high is like the stand-in for like, trust me, watch, something happens. Like we'll see what happens. But this is interesting. Let's see. So let's hear what's going on. I mean, it's just cool seeing more direct video feeds come out.
Wait, you know what the thing is? You have hijacked it. You have taken the meaning away.
We're not gonna. You cannot portray the image and make the image because of me.
What you like, go for it. Don't try to shut the black community out.
I'm black myself.
Oh, but you have your phone.
Wait, so you have the black woman telling the black man.
Did someone say? I think I heard someone say you're not black, because I can't really see that well. Let's see if I can blow the video up so you can see a little bit better. 1 second. I'll see if I can move it around. But yeah, like I said, interesting. Clearly, but I want to show you another picture too. I have to imagine.
Okay.
Again, my theory on this, if anyone's been there, and tell me if I'm wrong, my theory on this is just kind of closer to the hippie stuff we saw. But let's the rest of the video.
She said I'm not black. What am I?
The thing about it is, the bickering and back and forth. What kind of change do you get from bickering and back and forth? Matter of fact, let me take this motherfucking mask off. What kind of bickering? What kind of change do you get from bickering back and forth? We can all check this out. I'm not done talking, boy. I'm not done. Granny Francis on the mic. I'm not done. You gonna let me talk? I got the mic. Push. Like I said, no, I ain't done.
Wow.
6 feet, man.
6 feet.
6 feet.
Wow,
You want to take folk up there? What you want to do at Burt's Red Apple? What you gonna do? If this is supposed to be a peaceful protest, then you know what? Use your words and your pen. Then go ahead and write a review, write a complaint. Do what you gotta do. But taking a bunch of folk up there to riot and do all that, what does that solve? Nada. Didn't I say 6 feet? Didn't I say 6 feet? You got 2 more to go. You got 2 more to go. You got 2 more to go. I'm not gonna say it again. Check this out.
Oh my God.
Hold on. I'm
great.
not here to answer questions. I'm simply here to say, what does the bickering back and forth do? If everybody is here for a peaceful protest, then give people a chance to speak. Not everybody is going to have the same opinion, but everybody gets to get up and talk. I don't agree with this man. He a black man. I don't mean I got to agree with him, but I got to let him talk. Like he got to let somebody else talk. We are all here to say what's on our minds and our hearts. I'm not done.
Dude,
This ain't a Q&A. 6 feet. 6 feet.
This woman is a savage. She is just wrecking that dude. I am loving that lady going to town on him. That is awesome.
It does highlight one thing. I guess you had to imagine stuff like this would be going on in there. Where like, what do you know? There isn't that strong authoritarian government at the top. It is just kind of people that are just kind of like. And eventually, actually, it was funny. There was in that Washington Post article I was reading earlier, they mentioned at one point that an argument started because a guy was trying to tell people to move out of the street so a truck could come drop food off. And it was like the conversation started off like intense, or like it was like, why? He just said like move out of the street, but very interesting. I don't know. Cool to see some of the stuff that is going on right now, because it's been a few days we haven't. Now I do, just to be fair, I want to highlight as well somebody. Here we go. This guy did the whole thread. So let's go through this guy's threads. Pretty interesting stuff. We're moving backwards now. This was from 2 hours ago. Now we're kind of working backwards. Check this out. He said, found the community garden that is being set up in a park nearby. The Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone occupiers also set up tents. So this is the community garden right now.
too.
Do we have any farmers? I know we used to have someone. We know we used to have someone to come on our show who legitimately is a farmer. Any farmers in chat? Let me know. Give me like, is that good for like starting a garden? Is that gonna like help them? Can you even tell if that's food?
That's just
this
kind of
looks like a flower almost.
To me, this is always just kind of like a little bit of a virtue signal. Whenever you go into those communities, they always have a community garden. It's like, for what? And you look over there, it's like, okay, you might be able to sport once a year 1 tomato out of that. Like, you're not going to be sustaining anybody. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't do a lot with a backyard garden. I've seen some people that live completely independently on just a 5,000 square foot lot, which is an average suburban size lot in a community, where they have just figured out what grows where, and they've got this whole system where they're just making food, whether it's corn on the back hedgerow or whether it's fruit trees or whether they're growing beans, whatever it is, people capitalizing on the space that they have. But I mean, come on, that little that little garden in the middle of the park, what's that doing?
I guess I got owned. It's a tomato plant. Obviously, I am not a farmer, but it looks like farmers in chat.
Hey, so we got a manifesto here.
Well, it's not a manifesto.
Yeah, that's a manifesto. That's like their own little Bill of Rights, their own little constitution.
It's a pamphlet.
Yeah.
It's not a manifesto.
Okay, it just needs to be handwritten. Who's their John Hancock?
As far how this was described by, again, this is a journalist, Julio Rosas, just seems to be doing a pretty good job going through, taking pictures of video of the stuff. So I'm going to go through his thread and check it out with you guys. He refers to this. He said he refers to them as the occupiers. I think it's kind of funny. Occupiers in the Capitol Hill autonomy. The occupiers. Are now trying to figure out what to do next. So a packet has been giving out suggests taking over the East Precinct to move the CHAZ or dissolve the CHAZ. Escalated pretty. Yeah. Should we expand? Should we expand? Should we just move? Or should we dissolve it? Okay. So I'll see if I can bring this up so you guys can read this a little bit better. I think I have to zoom in so you can read it.
What should the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone become?
I have to do it differently. Give me 1 second, guys.
Okay.
I'll go through and read this to you guys. So, but as far as I know, this is legitimately... Okay, here we go. So, whoa. Coming out on fire, man. After a week of... Oh, crap. After a week of war crimes committed by the Seattle Police Department, we have seized a multiple block area of Capitol Hill. Be careful with this language if this is indeed real. Sometimes your opposition hasn't crushed you just because they don't feel like it, but be careful. Talking about war crimes, seized a multiple block area at Capitol Hill, established an autonomous zone outside of control of police and the legal system. Again, you'll notice, kind of how I brought up earlier, at least we've seen here, they do not mention being parallel to America yet, just outside of the police and the legal system. So like I said, it does appear to be just one guy who wrote, "You're now leaving America." We are hopeful that this movement will lead to the further development of mutual aid systems, radical action, whatever that is. You can define a lot of things as radical action. The beginning of the abolition of police and the decolonization of the Salish Sea region. We also recognize that this is only the beginning of a broader autonomous movement. It is right now the quote-unquote purgatory between the hell of the police state and a future world of direct autonomous action.
Although I like they at least called themselves a purgatory.
Oh, yeah. Although we have concerns over the current Although we have concerns over the current state of and future collective action by the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone. Whoa! Although we have concerns over the current state of and future collective action. So it sounds like basically everything. Our affinity group has identified 3 possible immediate courses of action for the CHAZ, and would like to present our ideas for collective deliberation. Again, to my point, actually, I'm showing you guys in real time. So I'm reading this kind of partially in jest. As far as I know, this has not been officially sanctioned by the body of CHAZ. Some random people could be passing these out. Okay. I just thought it'd be fun to show you guys what's actually being given to people.
So who is the leader of CHAZ, though?
You remember that video clip we just saw? It's a good question. It appears people are just yelling at each other on the street when it comes to trying to decide what to do next. That's why this is interesting here. That's why this almost feels like a kind of someone who's
this is what I'm really questioning here, Cody. Is when you study philosophy, there's always an appeal to blank. Okay, there's an appeal to authority, there's an appeal to science, there's an appeal to emotion, there's an appeal to a tradition, so on and so forth. There's something when you're making an argument, a philosophical argument, that you have to appeal to. Okay, and so in the case of the arguers, that we just saw, okay, you could see that the black lady says, don't infringe on the black community to a black guy. And he says, oh, wait, but I am black. So it looks like they're so programmed into thinking it's appeal to racism that now they got to appeal to something else. What are they going to appeal to? A philosophy of what?
Black.
What'd you say?
Somebody said he wasn't black.
No, but he yelled in there. He said, I am black.
I know. And then somebody says back to them, you're not black. And then he just says, who said I wasn't black? That's what I mean. It legitimately looks like people are just kind of arguing with each other.
So to what are they appealing their authority? Like, for example, the Constitution says that these...
nothing right now. They're legitimately trying to figure out what the authority is to appeal to. They don't know what it is. That's what this pamphlet's literally about. Look, here's a passage from the pamphlet that I was showed. Again,
but to me, that right there ultimately shows how this will lead in failure. Because just like you say, if you're not pushing something on YouTube, you're not growing. You know what I'm saying? And if you're not standing up for something and your movement isn't defined by something or isn't standing for something, it will ultimately fail. What are these people standing for? It seems like an anti-movement. They hate the police. They hate the system.
But also, like, is anyone arguing that this will last for 1,000 generations? Like, yeah, it'll probably just peter out eventually.
The CHAZ will last autonomously for 1,000 years.
How about this? To your point, this is the pamphlet that was passed out to the journalists out there. The lack of revolutionary purpose. Quite simply, this is not yet a revolutionary movement. For many, this may be their first exposure to autonomous and democratic ideas, including abolition, reparation, and decolonization. As the CHAZ was created in response to a vacuum of power, rather than as an explicitly revolutionary action by dedicated communities, we are concerned that the lack of education around these ideas may lead to a lack of resolution and clarity needed to maintain the movement of the co-optation or institutionalization of autonomous movements by liberal capitalists, NGOs, and politicians. It could also lead to a situation similar to the creation of the El Centro de la Raza on Beacon Hill in 1972, which, although immensely valuable as a space for community activism, is not explicitly autonomous nor revolutionary. We must create a movement in space. So it sounds like, I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'll see if I'll post the link so you guys can read it if you want. But it sounds like the actual revolutionary types, yeah, they are like, it seems like there's no direction. It seems like we're just kind of hanging around. It feels like we're just kind of milling about and not getting a lot done. And it's like, yeah, that seems to be the case. It looks like they're just kind of hanging around, just kind of milling about and not getting a whole lot done. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that is kind of feeding into every stereotype that I hate that. I can't stand boomer conservatives when they love doing those stereotypes that millennials are just lazy, because I don't think millennials are lazy. I think millennials are very justifiably angry and have been completely let down by a system that made them promise after promise after promise about college, about jobs, about future, about savings, about family, about this, about that. And then every single one of those institutional promises have been violated. Every single one of those institutions has let us down. Every single one of the institutional leaders to this day, except for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, I haven't met an institution that hasn't failed in their mission statement in my lifetime. From the media to our bicameral Congress to the presidency, we have had nothing but disappointment after disappointment after disappointment. And the worst part is we're expected to pay for it. Yeah. We're expected to foot the bill for all of these things. And you wonder, why aren't you saving for your future, Cardin? Oh, you should really invest in a house. Yeah, you need money to invest. Well, if you guys would just save, yeah, you need to make money that isn't literally just going from paycheck to paycheck. And by paycheck, I mean 60% of it goes to rent, 30% of it goes to health insurance, and I have to live off a 10% budget to buy groceries, gas, a car, a wife, kids. Like, what? You guys never had those numbers.
You had to buy your wife?
We don't talk about that, but she was mail order. Okay. And by the way, I exchanged goods for her. No, I'm just kidding. But
we have a few super chats.
Hey, hit it. Super chats.
Well, this one's addressed to you, so I guess I'll read it.
Okay,
David Valdez says $20 super chat. Says, Cardin, what were your thoughts on the Dems taking a knee with an African scarf? All these antics and seeing Jake Tapper and CNN apologize for his white privilege to Don Lemon has made a former Yang supporter into a Trump voter.
Yeah, you know what? First off, there's something about you saying a former Yang supporter into a Trump voter. I can see that you're obviously saying you're trying to illustrate that it was so grievous and stupid that many people might consider left on the left side of the political spectrum is now considering voting on the right. The thing I loved about the Yang Gang is we didn't have to think dichotomously. You know, we didn't have to have that binary way of thinking. There's plenty of conservative people in the Yang Gang, and many of the ideas that Andrew Yang espoused were actually products of conservatism first, such as UBI, such as a dividend, so on and so forth. I'm not saying all of his ideas were, but many of his flagship proposals were. And so let's get to the first part of your super chat, David Valdez. First off, thank you for the super chat. Your contributions help us buy the cameras and finish paying off the AC. And what were my thoughts on the Dems taking a knee with an African scarf? First off, so stupid. I'm with Cody on this one in the sense that why can't African Americans be Americans? Like, why can't we just accept that hip hop is the new wild, wild west? And just like we used to love cowboy movies and Westerns, we now love urban Westerns and hip hop music. And it's unique to America. Because let me tell you, the rest of the world views it that way. The rest of the world thinks, oh, that American music is awesome. Hip hop is great. It's not black culture abroad, okay? It's American culture abroad. And if we could only start seeing ourselves the way that, I wouldn't say foreigners because that has a negative connotation, but the way the rest of the world sees us, I think we'd be a lot more unified. And the only people that want to divide us are boneheads like Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, who are so racist in their non-racism and so ignorant in their attempt at sensitivity and outreach that I want them to keep doing it because most people see it as a farce. Because if they were going to the UN to visit, what was the name of that cloth? It's called Kahunte cloth. I'm ignorant on this. What's it called, Cody? Do you happen to remember?
I don't remember. One thing
I think it's called Kunte cloth.
I will say this though. I do believe it was a gift to them. I've heard this. I've not confirmed this, but I do believe it was like a gift given to them by like the Black Congressional Caucus that day. So I think like that was why they were all wearing them. I found out additional information later as to why, but it does look. I mean, I don't know how you can say it's not pandering because I can tell you what. I guarantee Nancy Pelosi doesn't know either what it's called.
But also, isn't there a point? Isn't there a
they're
point?
Just pandering. They just want to pander. It's like, dude. It's like.
No, but at what point is pandering insulting though, Cody? Because like if, for example, somebody showed up to my house and I invited them to my house for dinner, and to show that they wanted to get along, they brought a gift and they dressed like an 18th century polygamist and had 4 of their friends dress up as like polygamist wives. You know what I'm saying? Like, what if you thought I would like that, or that's part of my identity, or that's part of how I think or my worldview? Then at this point, I'm now just insulted. Okay? At this point, I'm just insulted. And it's everything
I guess
from...
to your point, I do believe that the specific thing they were wearing is from a specific part of Africa, because, Africa's not a country.
It's from a specific country.
Yeah, and it is kind of weird to just be like, wait, you guys all don't identify as a specific tribe in Africa? It's like, well, nah, man. Just some people do, but, like, not everyone, It'd be like, you're European. You guys aren't all just, like, French.
There it is. It's called
like,
kente cloth.
I agree.
And it's indigenous to Ghana.
Yeah,
so
to
first
that
off,
point, yeah, it's like not everyone's from Ghana. Like,
yeah,
it's like looking at a European and saying, "Oh, you're French. They're all French, right? Baguettes." It's weird. No, like people from other parts of same with Africa. It's like, yeah, no, I'm not from there. But it's politicians have to pan. Is it any different than just like wearing the local sports
no, but
team
some pandering is good. It's like when the wrestlers show up and they're like, "Hey, what's up, Cincinnati?" Cheap heat. I get cheap heat, but when it goes beyond cheap heat to just plain old dirt cheap and insulting heat, that's where I draw the line. So, David Valdez, in answer to your question, all right, the African scarf thing was so pathetic, it just reached the point of insulting. And these antics like Jake Tapper and CNN apologizing for his white privilege, to me, I want him to keep doing it. Why? Because it's wholly authentic. If you don't do it before the protests start, you're never going to do it without the protests. And it means that you don't actually think that way. And you're doing it either through coercion or through political theater. And I want these people to realize that CNN and Jake Tapper is nothing but political theater, the propaganda arm of the DNC. And the more they do things that people know are inauthentic, the more they expose themselves as a wholly inauthentic organization. And the more that I believe America will wake up to the fact that their news is inauthentic. What's another word for inauthentic? Fake. They're fake news.
Oh my God.
Boom shakalaka right there. Inauthentic news is fake news. And I think that's why that moniker gains so much steam, because they sense it in their bones. They can't put a name on it, Cody, but they sense it in their bones. So David Valdez, thank you for the super chat. It's all garbage. Eric Garcetti kneeling is garbage.
It's pandering. Yeah, I agree.
The only people where I could see myself thinking taking a knee was useful is if I were leading the National Guard into a group of protesters and I sensed that they were legitimate protesters, not looters. I would take so seriously my oath to protect and serve that I would first try and address a leader if I could find one. And I would say, look, we'll all take a knee for 8 minutes and 34 seconds to give you time to clear your heads. And then we're going to stand up. You know what I'm saying? And we're going to wait for 8 minutes and 34 seconds. All right? Because we believe that we're all citizens here, and these citizens are going to police these other citizens here. And then if you're not gone in those 16 or 17 minutes and 8 seconds, then the next 8 minutes and 34 seconds, we're going to have to clash. But none of us want that here. So let's get whatever you got to say out of your system. And guess what? If we don't clash and you guys behave, we'll march you as a protective band wherever you want to go. I'm kind of with Chris Swanson on that one. If I were actually the police chief and I felt that I could get through to some kind of leadership and I could build a bridge, and taking a knee in order to show that I want to protect and serve would actually do something in that specific situation, I'm okay with it. But I don't trust the judgment of the people that are doing it. And the only person that I've trusted that's done anything ecumenical like that actually has been that cop, Chris Swanson, and some individual cases I've seen around. But Eric Garcetti, no, he's pathetic. I had to listen to all of his freaking campaign commercials when he was running for mayor, and I know he is the most inauthentic POS.
Like I said, dude, I mean,
okay.
I know that there's the things that ruffle your feathers, but keep this in mind. Eric Garcetti,
my feathers are ruffled.
And you probably don't care about this at all, but Eric Garcetti actually got elected in part because he said, we talked about this the other night, he was going to get rid of a program that allowed
the abuses, the drop abuses.
He said, dude, as far as I know, ain't shit changed, man.
Like, oh yeah, no, they're pissed at him because he promised to get rid of all kinds of.
What I'm saying is this though. There's nothing unique to that. That's what happens. I want to go back. The reason why I brought that up, honestly, we're gonna have to do a full live stream on this one day. But Scott Tregerthorn said pro wrestling has way too much in common with American politics. And like I said, here's the difference. In pro wrestling, we know that when they're on the camera in their outfits dancing around, that's an act and they're pretending. And then we know that they have real names outside of it. You know, for example, Razor Ramon wasn't named Razor Ramon. That wasn't his real name. And there was, I believe Scott Hall actually is his real name, and people refer to him that. For example, like people, not for everyone, some people. My only point for this is this. Politicians, I feel like, have that same thing. They just don't change their name or persona. They do the same thing, though. When they're on the cameras, when they're in front of the crowd, it's fake. They're trying to trick you, convince you of stuff, make you think something, make you feel a certain way. It's the same thing. They're just trying to be like I think Carden was telling me, it was like the governor of Washington said that he learned about the CHAZ. It's like, no, he didn't. He knew immediately. Yeah. They just lie to us on camera in a certain way.
That's the kayfabe, right?
But that would be like that's what they call it in wrestling terms, yeah. But even then, that term goes back to like 1930 something. Like this notion of like wrestling was fake goes back. A lot of people have known for a while, but they watch it. Just with politics, we know it's fake, but we just kind of go like, maybe. Like, dude, Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and all of them going out there and putting on the kente cloths and taking a knee and stuff, that was performative. That was not for, that doesn't get bills passed. It's performative. It's for a camera. It's a photo op. It's only no different than going into the wrestling ring and saying, I'm going to grab, I'm going to smash, I'm going to break. It's a performance. But the difference in politics is we don't have that line so clearly defined. You have to kind of guess when is it Razor Ramon and when is it Scott Hall, so to speak, to use that example. Politics, you have to just guess. You don't know. Then, that being said, a lot of the really good wrestlers who make a lot of money at it also basically that's how they make a lot of money. They keep people guessing when they're real and when they're not. But it's interesting in politics. We were talking about this the other night. Matt Morgan got elected to, I believe, like a city council, but he's currently serving as a mayor with a 7-foot-tall wrestler. Kane, another 7-foot-tall. Glenn Jacobs, he got elected as a mayor of a large. But it's interesting. Anyway, I just want to get to that because, yes, that's what politicians do. They do performative stuff. They do lying stuff. They put on these phony performances. I had no idea. I was like, how many times has a politician been and allowing an abuse to go on. And then the abuse gets brought to light, and they go, I was shocked and appalled to find out this was happening underneath my... But they knew. They're not going to come out and say, you got me, I knew the whole time, busted.
Okay, so Cody.
They're going to play along with the game.
What's the kayfabe of the occupation of Alcatraz? We got another super chat here from Anna Nizoni.
I want to bring it... Well, no,
she says, could you discuss the occupation of Alcatraz?
Yes, bring it up.
Now, which one? It was originally occupied, if I remember correctly, during my father's lifetime. He told me about it. There was an American Indian tribe that claimed it as their own, right?
That one. So
is it still occupied by the same American Indian tribe?
No, that was for 1 year, 6 months, and 22 days. It ended June 71.
Okay, because that happened when my dad was a kid.
However, check this out. So parties to the civil conflict. We'll get through some more in depth, but I love this.
Okay.
So the Indians of all tribes supported by the International Longshore and Warehouse Union, who were they going up against? Just the U.S. Coast Guard, the GSA, the FBI, and the U.S. U.S. I guess the prison was still active in the... Was the prison active in the...
No, it was abandoned.
That's what I mean. So why were the marshals brought out? Marshals normally do like fugitives and stuff.
Well, I have a feeling jurisdiction for any prison system is going to be in their jurisdiction, right?
But at that point, was it a monument? Was it a park? Was it a...
No, I think it was just vacated, but it was still owned by the government. Therefore, the marshals would have jurisdiction.
Yeah. So it says, in March 8th, 1964, a small group of Sioux demonstrated by occupying the island for 4 hours. The entire party consisted of about 40 people, including photographers, reporters, and Elliot Layton, the lawyer representing those claiming land stakes. According to Adam Fortunate Eagle, this demonstration was an extension of already prevalent Bay Area street theater used to raise awareness. It looks like that was not interesting. Let's get to the occupation. So in the early morning hours of November 20th, 1969, 89 American Indians, including more than 30 women, students, married couples, and 6 children, set out to occupy Alcatraz Island. A partially successful Coast Guard blockade prevented most of them from landing. A blockade, damn. But 14 protesters landed on the island to begin their occupation. 14! It's all it took to occupy the island.
Dude.
And I guess it lasted a year.
Well, it only took 2 people, Sean Connery and Nicolas Cage.
Well, the island's lone guard, who had been warned of the impending occupation, sent out a message on his radio of Mayday, Mayday, the Indians have landed. That's pretty ridiculous.
Mayday, Mayday, the Indians have landed.
14 people coming to the island with 1 person on it.
He's like, it's an invasion.
Yeah. So at the height of the occupation, there was 400 people. Native and non-native people brought food and other necessary items to the people on the island, but the Coast Guard's blockades made it increasingly difficult, to supply the occupants with food. The suppliers, after stealthily journeying across the bay via canoe, dropped off supplies, which then had to be carried up steep ladders. Jesus. The occupation lasted about 19 months, but ended peacefully. An employee of the Bureau of Indian Affairs, Doris Purdy, who was also an amateur photographer accompanied a group who went on November 29th, stayed the night and recorded video footage. It's really interesting. So the protesters, predominantly students, drew inspiration and tactics from the contemporary civil rights demonstrations, some of which they had themselves organized. Interesting. I feel like that happens a lot. Yeah, you get people that are really good at organizing protests and stuff like that, and they just kind of keep doing it. So I want to get here we go. So the collapse and removal. I'll kind of go through it. Big story here. I'm just kind of running through some of the interesting stuff in it. Why the heck was there still a guard on Alcatraz? That is really weird. That is really weird. Maybe just for this reason, so like 2 people so 2 people couldn't take the island, right? Because imagine if it's like 2 people swam out there on like paddle boards and it's our island now, so they probably just had a land keeper, but that is pretty funny. So let's see. So on January 30th, a 13-year-old daughter of Annie and stepdaughter to Richard Oakes fell to her death, prompting the Oakes family to leave the island, saying they just did not have the... Oh, that's what happened. A 13-year-old girl died. Yep, that's probably going to kill a movement like this. That's one of the main things to always keep in mind. As soon as somebody dies that there isn't that much structure and someone dies and people feel like maybe there could have been. So, so we'll go through more, but I want to get a super chat. Interesting though. Let's go over more of this because I had not heard of this, so I'm just kind of reading through it right now, trying to figure out everything that's going on. But $5 super chat. I'll come back to it in a second. Fly Cactus mentioned in the communist community post, but thoughts on Andrew Yang and Mark Cuban podcast, especially on Mark's ideas and responses. I haven't heard it yet. I'm hopefully I'll listen to it probably not tonight, probably tomorrow. I was just really busy the last couple days, and I honestly forgot it came out. But I do want to listen to that.
Yeah, I was about to say I started listening to it.
Oh, the one with Mark Cuban? I haven't got that one yet. Oh, cool.
On Apple Podcasts.
No,
You know what I'm saying? It's you summed it up pretty well. That okay, he's a guy with a podcast right now. You know, I'm more interested in the action, not necessarily in the ideas. Mark Cuban's in a very interesting spot right now. I mean, he could really move it and shake it, and he's kind of up there, I feel, in pop culture, Cody, next to Elon Musk. Kind of as one of those modern Rockefellers, Carnegies, you know, those warrior princes of capitalism and technology that the media has deemed as acceptable to deify. Okay, I'm not saying whether or not you think he should be up there or that his opinions are right, but he is in a unique position in which he doesn't seem to me have been politicized yet. Okay, and both sides are allowed to like him for this amazing thing that they do. Okay, and I think Mark Cuban could be a wildly unifying character in American politics. And so I think it's great. First step beyond the podcast. That's awesome. But I'd also like to see what kind of policies he proposes and how he merges into politics. Because I really think guys like him got to. I think guys like him have to. Elon Musk kind of freaks me out a little bit. I'll be honest with you. If he ran for governor, I don't know. I don't know. What you going to do, man? Are you going to like,
What would he do, though? What would you think? What would he do?
I don't know. I think I got to tell you, actually, I probably would vote for him just because I think it's better than a bureaucrat who does nothing. You know, the liberal side of me that wants to embrace the chaos before I embrace the boring. Boom. I would be totally down. But Mark Cuban, I think Mark Cuban is a unique position to do a lot of good. So
he did talk about, okay, I got to listen to this then. The last few days, I wasn't even here last night. I was busy the last few days. I had no idea he actually did mention his run there. And I wish he ran.
Well, they prodded him about it, and they asked him about it. And he wasn't the only one that was asked that week. He's been asked by every major news outlet.
No, I just wanted,
ad nauseum for the past 2 weeks. Yeah. So anyway, Sly Cactus said, yeah, I was surprised. He almost ran. Yeah, but when I was on the local GOP Central Committee, something was said by one of the older members. It's one of the few times where I actually said I actually thought something one of the older GOP people said was very wise. But one of them, there was a speaker that wanted to come and speak, and she said, I know he's considering running and he just wants to get in front of people and he wants to get a bunch of free advice, yada, this and that. And she says he's a candidate, but until you pull the papers, you're not a candidate. And I think really it's like Mark Cuban talking about an almost run to me is useless. I want to see you run or else not run.
Well, everyone, like,
but you know,
almost ran 5 times.
Exactly. Same deal with Jesse Ventura. I think Jesse Ventura is another one that is in a very unique position to do a lot of good in American politics. Anyway, Tamarula says at least he was a regular Joe once upon a time. Yeah. And Elon technically can't run for president. Oh, comments Marianne H. Yeah, that's right. Because he is a citizen of, wait, was he born here?
Yeah, I think he was born. He's an American citizen, but
he's an American citizen.
Born in South Africa, I think.
No, you can be, as long as you're an American citizen, you can be the president of the United States of America.
I thought that was just kind of the weird old archaic rule.
No, because Senator Cruz was born in.
Wasn't he born in like an army base?
No, he was born in. No, I think you just have to be a U.S. citizen. No, not a U.S. citizen. Sorry, no, you do have to be natural born. But the definition of natural born can include being born abroad to U.S. parents.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure because there was that snafu with Senator Cruz as well. Remember when Donald Trump was like, I don't even think he can run. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I think Elon Musk could. But you're not allowed to be a citizen of another country, though. That's another thing. Well, you can't have served in another military.
Though, right, to run.
Yeah, you can't. But you also can't have served in another military. So, like, for example, if you're a Jewish American that was automatically drafted into the IDF, which I believe happens once you're 18, I think that precludes you. Once again, technically, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong in the chat, I think that precludes you from being able to run for the presidency because there's some byline somewhere that I read that you can't have served in a foreign military. Crazy, huh? Anyway, Shadow Wolf.
That makes sense, though.
Uh-huh.
Because, if made more sense back then. But think about it. If another country was to get like basically an asset installed as our president, probably if they were born in the country and served in the military, that'd be a good way to start it.
Okay.
But anyway.
Shadow Wolf has a super chat. Thank you very much for the super chat, my man. Off topic, but I've got to ask since it's my first super chat. Hey, your first super chat. Welcome to the super chat, Shadow Wolf. Man. What do you say to people who say capitalism is the cause of all bad in the U.S.? They're stupid. I'm sorry. At that point, when somebody says...
So you say nothing.
Because I hate to say it, Shadow Wolf, but these are the same kind of people that say, oh, well, religion has started every major war. Okay, first off, A, it hasn't started every major war. And B, most of the major wars that it did start that you're referencing came from a time in which the church was the state. Okay? The Holy Roman Empire was the political empire while simultaneously being the state religion, because there was no state religion because all there was religions. It was Turks versus Christians, okay? So when there were political atrocities and political wars waged, yes, oftentimes it was in the name of God because there was no such thing as in the name of the state. So you really need to open a book and understand what you're talking about here before you start thinking you're deep just because you read some leftist blog that hates Christians.
I know you just built some person in your head and they're ripping your hair out and you're freaking out, but specifically criticisms of capitalism.
Well, no, okay. Just like those people, sometimes are too stupid to be dealt with.
Just like the straw man you created. I guess we're going to
yeah. This is another straw man argument. This, capitalism is the cause of all bad in the U.S. What? First off, all bad? What bad? How did capitalism give my daughter cancer at 15 months old? You retard. You know what I'm saying?
Like, you have imagined some individual, and this individual is terrorizing.
No, I'm answering a question.
Dude, you are talking yourself into a storm. You're freaking out. It's hilarious.
No, okay. No, I'm answering a question.
You made up someone to get mad at right now.
Well, look, no, obviously,
Specifically someone saying, there's all kinds of people who have said all kinds of things. I just think you
okay, well, he's asking me specifically. He says, what do I say to people who say capitalism is the cause of all bad in the U.S.? They're usually uneducated, and it's hard to educate the uneducated.
So would you maybe say to them that you disagree, and then for what reasons? I guess you could just berate them and insult them. I guess, like I said, to that point, you say nothing. They would bring up their criticisms and try to engage with you, and you would just say, "Lord, you pooped your pants, get out of here." Like, what would you say to them?
I would say
other
first
than
off,
nothing, which is what you've said so far.
First off, is I would say, okay, I doubt you really think that it has caused all bad in the U.S. Elaborate. And then oftentimes they can't. Oftentimes people have these sound bites that they think are just the big boomsticks and the mic drops. And then you say, okay, elaborate. I want to know more. How is capitalism the cause of all bad in the U.S.? When they can't explain it themselves, then they often realize the folly of their own argument.
At the person, what is legitimately your belief as to why it's not true? Without just getting mad and tearing down the straw man and ripping your own hair out and going, I hate you! Like, what is what you would say to them? Other than would you just concede their point and say, I guess you're right. You're just stupid.
I would ask him to explain. I'd be like, okay, so
beyond asking him to explain, what would your stance be as to whether?
Okay, I would say, like, for example, okay, my daughter got cancer at 15 months old. How is that caused by capitalism?
But what?
I would ask them to prove what they just said. Be like, okay, you're claiming capitalism has caused all bad in the U.S. Tell me how capitalism caused my daughter's cancer. That's bad to me, and it happened in the U.S.
I would once again say it's kind of like that. That does feel a little bit like disingenuous argument. Oh yeah, well does economic system give anyone? And you know what they'd probably say? They'd probably say that they can make the point that capitalism led to the creation of all these chemicals that got pumped into things because the capitalism.
And then I'd say, what's the alternative? I would just say, what's the alternative? I would say, prove your position and then give me an alternative. And anybody that makes this argument against capitalism. All right, first off, I'd say I don't think we have capitalism right now.
Specifically, but I'm just saying,
we have crony capitalism.
Okay, but I want to get to the point. I feel like all you've done is make fun of somebody and say my daughter has cancer because of capitalism. Like, legitimately,
I don't know what you're going for here, Cody. I get what you're trying to do.
I'm trying to have a conversation. Like, what is it about capitalism that's worked that has been good? So when people say that capitalism's bad, you could say, well, no, because that actually
here's something that capitalism has been good. It's given a profit incentive to every entrepreneur and inventor and researcher in every single field of science, politics, religion, art, and architecture. It's given a profit incentive to research and development research and develop better products, services, and protocols in every aspect of our life.
Cool, okay.
There. And no other economic system has been able to lift more people out of poverty and make a better lifestyle for more people faster than capitalism has. And if the name of the game as a good person is trying to give as many people as great a life as possible, show me a better system.
Hey, that's a lot better than I think you're stupid and dumb and beneath me.
I didn't say I think you're stupid and dumb and beneath me.
I think you said probably...
First off, most people are beneath me.
I think you said 90% of those words literally. That's what I mean. I'm just trying to get your literal thoughts out. I understand you're mad at these people in your brain, but like, just what is it? Because I agree. I don't know. I agree. I definitely think one of the things that's really cool about capitalism is that capitalism, as far as most economic markets we do use, or economic systems we use that are powerful, it definitely is most... What's the best way? It's one of the few ones that can actually exist with a society that is free. Other systems don't work with free societies because you have to just start restricting the freedoms to kind of protect the economic system. Capitalism, you seem to not have to restrict as much freedom to preserve the economic system. Because honestly, they're all bad. I don't think any of them are good economic systems, because ultimately what happens is someone games them, schemes them, and makes all the money and sits at the top. However, there does seem to be a greater sense of leeway and freedom, which, like you said, does on average benefit people more than other ones because you don't have to use force to correct things that you don't like.
Yeah.
For example, the Fed will print billions and billions and trillions of dollars and pump them into the market instead of the government rounding up people and finding out other things to do. I thought it might not be a good thing that the Fed just conjured money up until the market stabilized for a while. But I'm just saying, like, that's the methods that capitalism will tend to go in, and the abuses tend to be in people being forgotten. I guess, how about this? Do you agree with this? Capitalism has the fewest amount of deliberate oppressive moves made as far as economic systems go. All economic systems have like deliberately oppressive things built into them to make the system work. Where it's just like, sorry, you have to have these rights restricted or else our system doesn't work. That seems to happen less in capitalism. And even then, capitalism bitch because
but also
trading rules and stuff.
With that said, it doesn't surprise me or really even bother me to that much of an extent that so many young millennials and Gen Zers are questioning the efficacy of capitalism because they have never really truly experienced it. And I'm not even talking about in a remotely purist form.
How about the point that
we have this crazy, crappy, crony pseudo-capitalist system that's basically got a capitalist veneer, but it's just this rotten cronyism underneath that is almost as bad as centrally planned economies, as evidenced by the coronavirus shutdown that we all just went through that made Jeff Bezos 5% richer in just 90 days, made him like $20 billion in like less than 4 months. Okay. So I don't blame a lot of young millennials to say, hey, capitalism isn't working, because when they say that, they're thinking, hey, the system we have right now isn't working. And I've been told that system is capitalist. So it doesn't surprise me that a lot of people are questioning capitalism. So I don't have the knee-jerk reaction that the stupid boomers have. They're like, well, what do you mean? Oh, it's socialism is evil. Socialism sucks. You know what I'm saying?
You said their knee-jerk reaction that they're stupid.
No, I have a knee-jerk reaction that most people I interact with are stupid in comparison to me. There's probably a flaw in my character, but at least I admit it. Okay, it's tough when you got that 200. It's tough when you got that 200. All right, guys. But anyway, Tamarula says, how was it put? Socialism for the corporations and rugged individualism for the rest. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Tucker Carlson said it really well. He's like, capitalism is a beast that serves us, not a god that we have to sacrifice ourselves to. And
I guess that's the problem when you find systems like, I guess, communism and other social, they end up having to become kind of like a god people must be sacrificed to maintain.
Yeah.
I'm not saying like good or but bad, you know, I'm not a fan, right, personally, but just like that's there seems to be the least amount of parts in a capitalist system where someone needs to be punished for being too successful.
Yeah.
There's little things like that, but like there's also bad things that come from it as well. But I think they're just bad things because every economic system will be used by the like how I don't know how any economic system can reconcile the fact that there will always be a percentage of people that are just kind of like sociopaths and crazy people and liars, and they're just going to do what they have to do to get ahead. Make you sign crappy scam documents that just rip you off, get you to make a bad loan. Like they just exist and they profit off economies, no matter what they are. There just seems to be the least collateral damage. Kind of a long talk, but I don't know. That just seems to be the things that I think are interesting.
Yeah. Hold on, I'm finishing a comment here.
I mean, like economic systems in general, like screw regular people. Right? People get screwed in most of them.
Yeah.
Like it's just how do you want to get screwed and in which way? Like I said, there seems to be the least amount of ways where the state is forced to oppress you to maintain capitalism. That just doesn't seem to have. There isn't that many instances that I've seen of like the state like literally being like, sorry, we have to address this. You need to have these things taken from you to maintain our capitalist control. That just doesn't seem to happen. As long as that doesn't happen, man, I'll stay with that side. In other systems, there does seem to be a sorry. But like we must seize this. We must take this. Must be we have to oppress you in a very deliberate way to continue to uphold what we want to get done.
Yeah.
Which hey, if you can make the greater good argument for. I'm not arguing whether it's like insane. I'm just saying that I personally don't see that happening as much, and I think it's good.
Yeah. So we're actually gonna have to be wrapping up here pretty soon. So if you guys got any super chats in your system, make sure you send them our way. If you got any burning questions, make sure you put them down. And I'm going to address a couple of comments here. That Joe Boffsher says something interesting. Capitalism isn't the problem. Those who make the money and want to make more is the problem. I don't think it's necessarily wanting to make more money. Even sometimes just that competitive aspect I think can be good for us. It's that I agree with Howard Schultz that not every question is a financial question for a corporation, which brings up Tom Arila's comment here. And I think we're all saying the same thing, but
Howard
just different
Schultz,
ways.
You a Howard Schultz fan?
He was the CEO of Starbucks, right?
Yeah, you big Starbucks CEO guy.
Some of the stuff he said, I very much agreed with. Yeah. I don't know if I'd say I'm a big fan because I don't feel like I'm well versed enough on his life and the ethical decisions or unethical decisions he's made in his life. But everything I saw, I liked. Not everything, but a lot of the things I saw, I liked. Tom Arila said, even Adam Smith wrote, if things beyond the market that are of value, I think we just teach people lessons from him, but don't read them ourselves. Yes, that's absolutely right. And see, I actually think it's many of the intangibles that capitalism cannot measure that make it the best system. See, I defend capitalism so that the capitalist can go out and be like the CEO of Chobani, who started from scratch, just had one secretary who stayed with him for 17 years and started this dream of this brand that he had from nothing. And once it got big, he gave 10% to all the workers. And that secretary got an awesome payday because, like, at the end of the day, let's face it, just like they say in The Prince of Egypt, can the rock that sits at the top of a mountain's mighty face really think it more important than the stones that form the base, right? Our society, in many ways, is like what the romantic communists tried to take advantage of. They tried to exploit this idea that as humans we understand we're commensal, that we're societal, that we're social beings, and we do have to be in this together. And I like capitalism because it's the system that allows us most to be generous. When the crap hits the fan, who can really bail us out? The capitalists can, faster than the governmental people can. The capitalists who've got money and resources at their disposal, using it benevolently, can do more good faster for people than the bureaucracy can. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I defend capitalism, not so that Bezos can get richer. I hate that. I hate that. We got 3 super chats that we got to get to really fast.
I'll go through them. So anyway,
Okay.
my Melanated Scope, $2 super chat said, Old Man Carden shaking his fist at the clouds. $2 super chat from Shadow Wolf saying, love that. Here's another super chat. Thank you very much, both of you guys. And then we have one more that just came through. Here we go. From Anna Nazoni said, have either of you considered running for office? $5 super chat. I will never. That's what I say now. I will never run for office.
Really? Why not, Cody? You'd be a good town council guy.
I just don't think it. I do not think it just does not. The government does not feel like the place for me. I feel like I would be too. I see government, the way they make decisions and the way things get done, the way people do things, and it confuses the hell out of me. I don't get it. I don't know how people can live in that world. I think it takes a certain individual to operate in that world, and I couldn't be me. It's just too much.
I think. First off, I think you're kind of right. You have a tendency to say, look, this is getting stupid. I'm out of here. And I'm not saying that's bad. I think you very much vote with your feet. And when there's a fight and a flight, I recognize I'm a fighter. So I view as running for office and getting involved as like a way of fighting the system by infiltrating it, actually flying your X-Wing into the Death Star. You know what I'm saying? And you fly your X-Wing into the Death Star by actually running for office. So for me, I feel the same way as you. I think it takes a special kind of prick to succeed in bureaucracies. You have to be somebody who's willing to promote the boneheads and overlook the abuses purposely just so you can maintain your power. And the cynical part of me agrees with you. That,
well, even like I said, like governments, it's weird. You would think they would be arguing about like how effective something would be if the goals we set can be attained, if the things that's never actually what they talk about. It's always just, can we get them to vote? Can we get this? Can we get it passed? So people accept it. Is it okay for them? And once it's passed, it's passed. My name's on it. If you don't play that game, they run you out. It's just, how many people have written that book and gave that interview and said, yeah, man, I got elected. I wanted to change the world. I had all these ideas. And then I found out that I'm going to play ball or shut up because guess what? I'm outnumbered up there.
Yeah.
And the thing is, there are people who do want to play ball and shut up. And they make it up there, and they do well for themselves. It's just if you're not that kind of, if you're not a, like I said, if I went and became a pro wrestler for a few years and I'd built up my full pro wrestling persona, I'd run for president in that persona. But other than that, I don't like it.
So Tom Arilla says maybe we need that kind of candor in the political sphere. So I think you have a little bit of a fan club here, Cody, that would help volunteer and put out flyers with your name on it. With your new haircut and maybe that shirt that you unbutton down to your navel, that would be a great campaign ad, and you would probably have all kinds of people voting for you. Shadow Wolf also says, I could see Cody pulling a filibuster. You know?
What is it? It wouldn't even be a filibuster. It would literally just be asking questions like, so what are we actually trying to... I could see myself asking a brick wall for 5 hours. So what is it we're actually trying to do? For what reason? And how is it we're going to do it? And why will it work? And those questions never get answered. But thinking that's how government makes decisions is the problem. It isn't. Governments don't make decisions based on metrics that you would think they would. They make them based on other metrics. Based on how will that maintain, will that upset the balance? Will I not be able to get that person to help me out down the line because I burned the bridge on this? Like I'm trying to think of the best example for it, but it's just you have to understand when you go up to Senate or to the House or any kind of, elected official stuff, it's like you live there now. These are your colleagues. It's one thing to just, go on the internet and say, God, these people in the house are so stupid. What do they think? It's nothing when you work in that house. They're your colleagues. You have to work with these people.
Okay.
And as long as they outnumber good, decent people by the numbers they do, you're never going to get in. It's just the way it is.
So Sly Cactus has a super chat. This is really funny. Cody 2024, from the navel to the oval.
Yeah, that's
from the navel to the Oval Office. That's hilarious. Spliff Sensei Joe Rogan says Cody would make a good president, and Scott says the combo goes to Washington, and I think that would be a good idea. I think it'd be a good president. Me, on the other hand, you were asking if I've ever run for president. I've held office.
Well, I would probably be
but I was kicked out before re-election.
That's what I get to.
I was voted off the Central Committee of the 38th District Central Committee of the GOP. I was voted off. Although I probably will run again because I was voted off by a bunch of boomer losers. And there's a thirst in our town for a new way of thought and a new sense of leadership. And I would run for that position because I think it would be actually influential and I could help out my community. I'm not really interested in like going to Congress. I don't want to be a congressman. I don't want to do anything like that.
So let me say, this career you're going to embark on, you just have no real goals or aims to go anything further. You're just going to putter around in the minor leagues. Okay.
No, I know. But
that's how politicians work.
No, but hold on. I think that's different than baseball though, because there is only one major league. Okay. Government is a multi-headed hydra, and I think it's okay to say like, oh, I'm not interested in being on the water board, but I'd be interested in being on the Parks and Rec board.
No, but it's one thing to say like, I'll just be some local rep. Which, by the way, sure, maybe local reps can do a little bit of things here and there. For the most part, not really. If you want to run for legitimate, real big boy offices, and by that all I mean is like the higher offices. So even like assembly. I'm not talking about like state senate, right? Just like any of these, or not state senate, like a national senator. I'm saying like the top offices, you're working with career politicians.
Well, yeah, that's part of
These
the problem
aren't
because
people-
not enough citizen
Yeah.
politicians are getting
And
involved.
that's my point. Like when people look at this as a career, they go to the big offices, the offices that
Yeah,
have the
but
more
hold on,
influence,
see,
and then this is their career.
I think the solution to that is to have just such an overwhelming amount of citizen politicians running. You wouldn't have a bunch of crappy career politicians starting in the school board, then going to the water board so they can go to city council, so they can do state assembly, so they can do state senate, and then run for Congress. You wouldn't have these career politicians if every step along the way they met a citizen politician on the water board who is actually a water engineer, who actually says, I'm passionate about this and I will serve my community by using my talents in order to be on the water board. And then they would have a bunch of ex-public or retired public educators or even just volunteers like my wife and the women that serve on the site council with her. You know, if all of these career politicians were competed against a bunch of citizen politicians, the citizen politician will win every time, hands down, against the career politician.
But what does the career politician have more of?
Connections and lobbyist money.
No. Just by definition, what would the career politician have more of than the part-time citizen politician?
Cheap suits. No. I don't know what.
What is making something your career give you an advantage over amateurs in?
Oh, connections and resources.
Time, yeah.
Yeah.
It's nice that you don't have any aspirations greater than this water board. I'm stepping over you. That's literally what happens right now. They do take these roles and they step over these dumb yokels that don't want to aspire for anything greater. And they go up to the big leagues to be a real politician, make a career out of it.
Okay.
Like, do you think people that are planning to do this for the next 30 years are going to get stopped because someone who, when they can spare some time, sits on a water board for a few hours and makes them feel dumb? No, dude, they'll just say,
I think
they'll go,
the
"To hell with
lack
this.
of
I'm gonna-"
civic engagement
So
on
who
behalf of
runs
the
against
average
them?
American.
Who runs against them when they go for the higher offices?
I think if enough citizen politicians got involved on a larger scale, it would breed a better, much more benevolent class of not career politicians, but repeat politicians that would dilute the career politicians to such a degree that we would go back to having Ronald Reagans again.
Wrong, right? I guess, but I don't know, man. I know
He wasn't a
I know you
career
have
politician,
this
for lack
like
of a better
Beach
term.
Boys. Wouldn't it be nice idea that like we'll just have these
Wouldn't it be
throngs of
nice?
people that will just shoulder out the career politicians. Generally speaking, you can describe as shysters, con men, liars. They know what they're doing. It's why they are good enough at it to do it for 40, 50, 60 years. You think Nancy Pelosi sucks at her job and is stupid?
No, I think
She just happens to keep getting elected to be Speaker of the House. They're good at it.
Cody,
That's what makes them career politicians.
But you've grown up in a very specific time of American history in which post-World War, the trust that the average person had in its government was at its all-time high. And baby boomers, the generation that ruined America because they basically let government and career politicians do its thing because they trusted it and still believed the media. Okay. You're living in a very unique 20 to 40 year period.
I'm talking about legitimately the world we live in today and how it functions and who the people who live in it
Yeah,
are.
I'm thinking we could go back to
have.
having much more civic engagement than we did
Nice, man?
in the
Wouldn't
past.
it be nice? But what are we actually dealing with?
We're dealing with, I believe, a populace that is waking up to the fact that they've been getting screwed for 40 years. That's what I believe.
Okay, and
I believe if they continue waking up, they will get better and will get more involved. I have that faith in my fellow Americans.
Okay, so they're going to throw their hat in the ring with people who do this shit for a living. Okay, there's a line, and now unfortunately, I wish the movie ended. One of my favorite movies is Collateral. You ever seen the movie Collateral?
Yeah, you're talking about with
Tom Cruise
Jamie
and
Foxx and Tom Cruise.
And
Yeah.
Tom Cruise is the professional hitman, and he kidnaps.
And he says, "Nah, no, you wouldn't. If you were going to start your own company, you would have done it already."
No, not that. There's the part where Jamie Foxx is shooting at him. It's actually a cool scene because they don't always highlight this in movies. And when he's coming at him, the Tom Cruise hitman character, you hear he's like, "Listen, I'm a professional. I do this for a living.
Yeah.
Like, who do you think you are? Some random tab with the gun's gonna shoot me? You know, I didn't say it literally, but that's what these politicians are like. Oh, that's nice. You got a heart of gold and you're a citizen politician. I do this for a living.
Yeah.
This is my job. I fed my family for 30 years.
Yeah.
Think I'm gonna fall over because Johnny Blueheart's coming up saying, I know how to run I believe in my citizens. Okay, nice, man. Guess what? I was planning for this. When I picked my school, I was planning for where I was going to run. I was meeting people, shaking hands. I was lying. I was selling my soul when you were in diapers, okay? That's what these people are saying, man. It's kind of ludicrous to me to just think that we just let these, like, we just kind of sit by and passively let these people who aren't smart, capable, and know what they're doing get what they want. They're going out there and winning things like elections.
Okay, I'm not some doe-eyed idealist here that thinks just because somebody's got a good idea and a heart of gold, they're going to win. Okay. But I do think if there was a widespread change of attitude, which I have seen in my lifetime, widespread changes in attitude, if there were a widespread change in attitude about this, it would breed a rising tide that lifted all ships and had naturally positive, implications on our society and change in our society, which brings me to Tamarilla's quote here. She said, "We need people to start local newspapers so that they can engage their communities and get less propaganda via limited media." I think she means local media.
Do you know who's starting local media?
Well, I think that's
no, do you know who is right now?
Twitter journalists.
Literal propagandists as well are starting local media in places they don't live to trick and deceive people. Because like I said, smart, capable people that are liars and know what they are doing are good at this stuff, and they have more time than you. Most people.
Yeah, but if we had that cynical view, Cody, it wouldn't ever be worth trying to fight in anything.
Hold on,
good.
I'm just not going to sell these people short. I'm not crazy enough to sit up at 2 a.m. thinking, how am I going to game and scheme my way ahead? Some people are. We can't sell them short and say just because they're crazy people that have devoted their life to the lust for power that they just shouldn't exist or will just kind of, I don't know, be better. I'm not trying to be cynical or like, I'm just saying like these people, there are people that get ahead for reasons other than like just like cosmic unfortunate. Oh, how unfortunate for us they got ahead. No, man, they have certain talents and skills and they lean on them in certain ways that get them certain places. I think just writing that out and just saying, yeah, but we'll have other people who are like, no, what are we going to do with this class of people? You know, the people that are the lobbyists, the politicians, not all lawyers, right? But the lawyers that do some stuff. Like you said, maybe there's water board people and then there's senators and Congress people. It's not obviously the entire profession, but you'll notice there's certain pockets, man. Like what is the common man supposed to do? Really? That's been a problem forever. I think someone pointed that earlier.
Well, here's the deal. Like Lori Green just says,
for that reason.
I agree, Cardin. However, we are too poor, knee on our necks. We cannot compete. No way. The man's got you when he's got you at a point where you think you cannot compete. There's always something you can do. Any person with an iPhone can start a blog. Any person can start a podcast. You can do it on Anchor, and you can just use your iPhone. Okay? You can use any recording device in your house. And even if you're only got an audience of 10 people that you consistently give your you give your input and your input on, there we are, to those 10 people in your community. That's 10 people that you have taken out of the clutches of the man and his fake news. So I get that you are at a disadvantage. Yes, Lori Green, we are disadvantaged, but we are not beaten. Okay, and if there were ever a time, we are living in the time of the new Gutenberg press. The ability to record and transmit audio for free, widespread, we've never had this kind of transitional information at our fingertips and experienced such a change in human history since literally Gutenberg invented the press.
Hold on a second. People who live in districts that are miserable, who have been represented by the same person for 25 years,
start a podcast called Why It's Miserable in the 68th,
but what I'm saying is
you will gain a following.
No, I don't care about that. What? It's information. These people don't realize their life's miserable. What are they being tricked into voting for the same person? No, they probably don't realize that. They probably don't realize how many of them there are. What information are they lacking?
Okay, they're lacking organizational information, and they probably don't realize that together they could actually pull an AOC and get that idiot that has always represented us out of office.
Okay, but what if AOC's gone in the next few months? Come November, that experiment was cute and she's gone. What I'm saying is, man, I just feel like you need to understand that these people that are the shyster, conman, politician types got there by being who they are.
No, I do get that. And it's not that I don't understand that. It's that I have the fight mechanism while you generally have the flight mechanism.
But it's not even like that. I'm just saying, like, why? Sure, I guess fight for the fight's sake. But I'm just trying to think of what's a better way of dealing. What's a better way of regular people finding a way to do it? I've seen information. I've seen what you're describing. It doesn't work because like I said, governments don't operate the way we think. You can't go to the government and explain to them they're operating incorrectly, and they're not going to change course. They don't care.
Yeah.
They'll say, force us to change or we won't. Like I said, how many people can point and say, your district sucks. You've never gotten anything you've wanted, and you've been elected by the same person. Maybe because there's something else at play there, and it's not just that they don't know that their community sucks.
You know,
they don't know living in misery. They don't have to be. I think a lot of it is they know that, but like, what am I going to do?
Okay, my answer to that, Cody, and actually, I think that's a very good question. I actually think that's a really good question, and I can say I do not have a blanket answer. I can name specific times and events in which a widespread problem has been solved through community involvement, but the path to that community involvement has been different every time and often not repeatable. For example, when I was younger, there was a petition that went out to change a very specific law that was causing oppression. And I don't know if it was the charismatic leadership of the soccer mom that started it. I don't know if it was just in the 90s, written petitions were cooler and worked better. But where other petitions have failed, I saw that one succeed. Okay. I also have known people that have started community newspapers, actually specifically started websites as news aggregates for relative information to their community, and then started actually writing original ones in this, what started out as a newsletter that became like a local news source that did great good. But that's not always the solution, because as you point out, there's corrupt jerks out there that are starting local disinformation newspapers. So I would say that I don't have your answer, in the sense that I don't think an answer exists that works every time in every situation. And maybe that's part of the rub. Maybe that's why the Greeks did say charisma is a gift from the gods, because it's so rare that all of the stars are in line so that the common man can change his outlook on life, that it almost appears like a gift from the gods.
So perhaps would it not make more? I'm not using not like a fight or flight thing. I just think that maybe you should analyze the fight you're going to take and say that looks like a guaranteed loss. But what's another angle?
If you're calling me foolhardy,
I'm saying is this:
I guilty as charged.
Why not find the charismatic people with influence and just try to convince them that we have mutual interests here. We can benefit each other by working with us and us working with you. We both get somewhere. Instead of trying to explain to them, no, you don't understand. This law would fix everything. Okay, whatever, man. We'll get the laws passed later. We have to convince the people that actually do. Because remember, I'm not going to ask you to burn anyone out. Personally, you know any politicians that while the citizen politician, while the good-hearted person is working, hanging out with their kids and doing stuff, you know, and I know people that are sitting around on their couch making phone calls, planning their run 6 years out from now.
Yeah.
How can the regular person who's not, like I said, no offense, a crazy person planning how they're going to be making calls, looking ahead, checking out all the laws, making sure they're in a good spot to run in 6 years, because how does the regular person compete with that? And like I said, I don't think I think what's more important is for the regular people to find ways to lobby those people to serve their interests in more direct ways, without trying to explain to them and show, no, look at the number, dude, they don't care if the numbers add up. If you could just convince them that we have mutual interests and we can benefit each other here, they'll pass stuff that doesn't work. They do it all the time.
Yeah, well, I
defend it for you.
I definitely think you're right that it's a people argument more than a legislative argument. That in every community, there's people that carry a lot of sway and gravitas, and getting to those people and convincing them to be on board with your cause could quite possibly be more effective, minute for minute and dollar for dollar of time invested, than starting a local newspaper. However, if starting a local newspaper will help, and you have a very specific talent towards that, like you're really good at media and at local journalism or journalism in general, then I would say do both. Because oftentimes, you know, you gotta stand where you're planted. You have to lift where you're planted, and if everybody lifts together in however they can lift, I could see overwhelming change.
But like I said, to your point though, because think of how. I'm not going to ask no specifics, right? But just think of the people you know that operate in local government out here. What do you think is more effective? Getting their ear personally, or trying to publish these letters for change and letting people know what's going on?
Well, I could see getting their ear
what
through.
What actually gets the thing done? Is it not getting in communication with people that make the decisions? Like I said.
I think just donating to their campaign.
Convince them there's mutual benefit. But that's my point. What if buying influence from the people that actually are crazy enough to become politicians is just the best course of action?
Yeah, I hear you.
Even if it is maybe morally a little bit not exactly what I'd love, if that's the best course of action, you want to get what you want to get done, then why not do it?
Yeah.
I'm just thinking, because I've seen people try the inverse and it doesn't work. I see government pass laws, they know won't work, and defend them for 20 years. They don't care.
Yeah.
They never did. They care about other things. But I do think that I think there's something to that, right? Maybe the good, decent person should just work hard to try to build up either literal capital or social capital that they can throw behind the madmen and the madwomen that actually
But maybe
have
your
what it
social
takes
capital
to get
would be
elected.
editing the local newspaper.
Sure. Probably, exactly.
Yeah.
My point is, why not convince them that it's easier to have me on your side, so you should do what we're asking for, than it is to try to convince everyone else that your ideas are the good ones and people should adopt them.
Yeah.
My larger point is this. You only have to convince one senator instead of 80,000 constituents. You only have to convince one congressperson, one assembly person, one state senator, one state house member. You only have to convince them, the individual, not all the constituents underneath them. And I think just people that want to invoke change, if you want to invoke change, find a way to have influence, whether it be through literal capital or through social stuff, and use it, because that's how you get stuff done. It just literally is. I just feel like we kind of sell these people short when we act like these bad actors get into politics by just cosmic coincidence. Maybe getting to that spot's what they're good at, and it's up to us to corral them once they get there. Just trying to hope they'll be noble and say, well, no, understand who they are, what they are, and that they need guidance, so to speak.
Yeah.
Or else think of like I said, how goofy it is. Like the idea you can't sell single cigarettes, like kids will buy them and stuff. It's like, I guess, man, but like what a weird law to get drawn up. Does it help? Do less kids smoke cigarettes because of that law? I guarantee you no one even asked or cared. They just passed it and moved on. How often does that happen, though? We're going to pass a law to address X. Well, does this thing still exist? Yeah. Does it exist at the same rate? Pretty much. So the law didn't help? Whatever, moving on. I mean, they don't care, man. Yeah. So I was saying, as a person who wants to get stuff done, don't get bogged down in the trying to game plan, theory craft, the perfect thing that will work all the time. It doesn't have to work. You just got to convince the people to do it. Now, obviously, you want to make sure that you're getting stuff passed that works, right? I'm not saying just throw stuff out there. But what I'm saying is when you're making the pitch to them, they don't care if it works. They really don't. It doesn't matter to the state. It doesn't matter. They'll pass it anyway. It matters to them more if this is something that's beneficial for them to do. If they're going to, even if it works and you convince them it works, but they're convinced they will be unelected or ran out of office, they won't do it because they don't care.
Okay.
Convince them if they want to keep getting what they want, they should do it.
Yeah.
It's a little bit, I'll admit, I don't know if crass is the word, it's a bit direct, but that seems to be when someone wants the law changed, generally they write a check or they do something or they have they move volunteers, something. They don't. Or they'll start a newspaper to contact him and say, I'll call off these negative articles about you if you give me what I want. I mean, they don't do it to get the mobs of people to advocate for what they want. Sometimes, I guess, but that just seems to be that's the roundabout way.
Yeah.
Why? Just skip to the top. Find the person who does it and tell them to do it.
All right. This has been awesome. It's been real, and it's been fun, and it's been real fun. Thanks for hanging out with us, guys. Thanks for all the super chats. It's helping upgrade the studio. We're not sweating bullets here. Still paying off the AC technically, but at least it's installed. You know what I'm saying? And this has been great, and I've really enjoyed this. Make sure you follow us on Twitter. Okay. Make sure you watch out for our community posts and submit ideas as to what you would like to talk about before we start live streaming. Usually I try and put those up in the morning, but sometimes they don't get out until a half an hour before we live stream. So keep a lookout for those. Before you leave the chat, try and make sure that you give a thumbs up, all right? I'd really appreciate it if you guys could give a thumbs up. And that one thumbs down, I'm sorry we disappointed you. I'm really sorry. But if you guys could give smash the like button.
Remember 2 thumbs down if you disagree. Seriously. It doesn't hurt our feelings. I swear to God.
Yeah. It actually kind of makes me feel like I've done something right. But I'm just kidding. So anyway, thanks a lot, guys. This has been awesome. This is Problem Solver Politics. We'll see you guys in the next video.